In 1886, Israel Hutchins was alerted by the barking of his dogs and discovered that a large wolf-like beast of dark color was chasing his grandmother's geese. He fired his weapon at the animal but missed. It ran down the river, but several mornings later, it was seen again at about dawn. It was then seen several more times at his home, as well as at other ranches 10 to 15 miles down the valley. Whatever this creature was, it had claimed a large hunting territory for itself.
There have been reports of strange creatures in the area.
Witnesses say they couldn't believe what they were seeing.
Welcome, beloved fofers, doubters, naysayers, non-believers, and skeptics. Welcome to Paranormal Fable or Fact. I am Victor Trevino, joined by my co-host and beautiful wife, Tammy.
We are your humble guides to tales of alleged hoaxes, unbelievable stories, and the overall strange.
Yes. Okay, of course we want to mention the email. Our email is pfableorfact@proton.me. And if you want to send us stories and the story is too long to type out in an email, go on your, wherever you get your apps, get a free digital recorder app. You can record your voice on there and email it to us electronically, and we'll just play it on the show or say it in our own words if you don't want your voice played or whatever.
Or if you want to give us ideas, or you have a local folklore where you live, or
good.
Any stories that would be great for us to tell that we can do some research on, please send us an email.
Yes. We're posting...
We got the giggles tonight, everybody.
Why are we so laughy tonight, gosh? Okay. We are posting this episode a week late because I guess the last episode got bugged somehow because on the sound editor, I could not get it to save anything, any of my edits. I don't know why. But when I exported it to my desktop and then imported it back, I was able to finish editing that way. So it's not perfect, but at least it's edited and it's finished.
It was they. They are listening. They are watching.
They with a capital T. Okay, this episode is called Bring Back My Dog.
That's funny.
I know
It's
you
a
were
big
laughing.
title.
You were laughing about it earlier. Because this is about it's called the Shunka Waraki.
Okay.
And actually it's about two different creatures because supposedly one of these Shunka Warakis was shot.
Okay.
And back in the 1880s. So we're going to kind of I want to kind of keep, even though the intro and the gist is about the more modern killing of supposedly one of these things, I want to keep the first part of the show towards the
1800?
folklore first. No, towards the folklore first.
Gotcha.
To kind of describe what the creature is. But I think it's just kind of mixed together. But just keep in mind we're talking about two separate things.
Okay.
First is the folklore of this creature called the Shunka Waraki, and then we're going to be talking about also the thing that was shot in the 1800s.
The Ringdocus.
Yeah, it's not the Ringdocus. Ringdocus.
I just like to say Dorcas.
You think you're cute, don't you?
It's funny.
You think you're real cute.
Okay, back to the business, though.
The gist is, well, before we get into the gist, I saw this creature, a story about this creature. It was either way back in like the 70s or 80s. It was either on the show In Search Of with Robert or Leonard Nimoy, or it was on Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. I don't remember which one, but they were talking about how this creature was shot back in the 1880 and 1886, and then it was stuffed and mounted, but all they had, because it had gone missing, all they had was this black and white grainy photo of it.
Oh,
And they were
okay.
fascinated by it. And they said that it had gone missing and nobody knew where it was. Well, here we are, fast forward 30, almost 40 years later, and it resurfaced after being lost for over 100 years.
Wow.
And so I just wanted to give that background. It was found by the grandson of the man who shot it, so let's get into the gist. The intro kind of covered most of it, but the gist is a man named Israel Amon Hutchins shot and killed this creature after accidentally shooting and killing one of his own cows.
Oh, no.
Then he traded the carcass for a new cow. Got to get your cow back,
Wait, he traded the cow carcass?
No. He traded the carcass of the Ringdocus
okay.
for a new cow. And he
Okay.
traded it to a taxidermist named Joseph Sherwood. And apparently Joseph Sherwood mounted this creature, stuffed it and put it on a mount and donated it to a local business who had it on display in his window. It was in a small local town, but I don't remember the name of the town, but it is in Madison County and it is in Montana. Okay. So apparently it got donated to a local museum where I guess the museum went under or something, and it got lost. And I guess it got donated to another museum in another state of Idaho, and they put it in storage and kind of forgot about it for over 100 years.
Wow.
The grandson of Israel, actually the great-grandson, of Israel, whose name was Jack Kirby,
Jack Kirby was actually the grandson of Israel Hutchin.
tracked it down, went down to Idaho, picked it up, and got them to donate it back, and now I guess they have it on display back in the state of Montana. So, and I didn't know Montana and Idaho are actually really close.
Yeah, they are.
I thought it was like a huge trek across the whole country. No, it's like right above. It's like right above it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how it wound up in Idaho. So that's basically the gist. Is he killed this thing? Didn't know what it was. Somebody, the taxidermist guy apparently thought it was so fascinating that it was worth trading the carcass. This is a dead animal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he traded it for an entire cow. So,
back then, 1886, a cow could feed your whole family.
yeah, that's your livelihood.
For a while.
Or
it could
provide
feed
you
your
with
family.
milk. And,
Yeah.
So, cows were valuable back then.
Yeah, very valuable.
So the fact that he traded a whole cow for this thing, the taxidermist must have saw something in this thing, and many other people have as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to the red flags. And the first red flag I ran into during my research of the Ringdocus, which was the nickname that people gave to the creature that Israel shot. Okay, because remember, we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
There was also other nicknames given to it, it was like the mountain hyena, and remember that weird Gyastiscus or whatever. But we figured out that was just slang for like doohickey.
Yeah.
It was but a weird creature.
Right.
Like a boogeyman or something.
Yeah.
So it was just like a nickname. But the Ringdocus was actually the title that was given to it by Israel after he shot it, and or by Joseph Sherwood. I don't know which one named it, but so that's what we're going to go with is the Ringdocus.
Okay.
Also, if you look it up, that's what comes up when you type in Ringdocus. So the Shunka Warakin is a wolf-like creature in Native American folklore that is said to sneak into their camps and it would steal their dogs. And this name comes from the indigenous Iowa language, which I can't remember what the language is called. It's like Chinurka or something. But in their language, it translates to something that carries dogs in its mouth, which is why I named the episode
Okay.
Bring Back the Dog.
Okay.
I don't know why I did that. I just wanted it to be clever, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it translates into something that carries dogs in its mouth. Okay, so I don't want to go too into that, but I think that's fascinating that, all folklore and legends and myths are fascinating to me, but I think it's fascinating that something would sneak into their camps and steal their dogs. Now, granted, coyotes can sneak dogs out of the camp, right?
Yes.
We know this for a fact. A mountain lion could do it.
Yes.
So we're not dismissing plausible explanations or scientific or logical explanations for dogs going missing for their camp, but we're just talking about the folklore. So the saying of locals back in the 1800s and of the local Native American tribes was that it looked somewhat between a cross between a wolf and a hyena. In fact, the description given by Israel, if you remember the gist I just went over, he described it as a wolf-like creature chasing around his grandmother's geese.
Right.
So he didn't say hyena or anything like that. Now, and I didn't go into deep research on this claim. I just thought it was fascinating that it was even mentioned. Apparently, some reports claim that William Clark from the team of explorers,
Lewis and
Clark, yeah, that he had discovered cave art of a painting of this giant dog/wolf of ferocious appearance and enormous size. It had a curling, shaggy mane that was represented as extending all the way down the back of the animal, and in one instance, it was carrying a young deer in its jaws, illustrating its size and its strength. Wow. Right. So this is we're still talking about the Shunka Waraki,
Right.
According to the legend and myth, this Shunka Waraki has a sinister nature, which to the Native Americans suggests that it's something associated with like dark magic or spirits.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't look at it as a favorable creature, like a natural spirit of the forest, as they did some of their other belief systems. With this thing, it was more of something that needed to be feared or left alone. Now, I found this was interesting, and I just put it in there. So it's not really a red flag whether yay or nay or what we believe. I just thought it was fascinating. Around 45 Iowa, and by the way, the state of Iowa is named after this tribe.
I would think so.
Yeah, but the 45 Iowa tribesmen fought in the Civil War.
Oh, that's interesting.
In the Union Army, yeah.
Wow.
One of them was the chief's grandson, and his name was James Whitecloud.
Oh,
and
okay.
he was the grandson of Chief Mihuska, I believe it's how it's pronounced.
Oh, okay.
I just thought that was fascinating.
That is fascinating, actually.
Now,
You don't hear that about
not
the Civil War.
yeah, that some tribes actually volunteered and went and
Yeah.
fought to, but
Yeah.
that's
the first time I've ever heard that.
they were fighting to end slavery. So you figure a lot of the minority people back then would have wanted to volunteer for that. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably segregated military still even back then, but still I think that's honorable that they would step up and try to fight to end that kind of stuff. I just thought it was fascinating. But anyway, now the animal shot in Montana baffled most of the people that were looking at it, because remember it was displayed in this window. Mm-hmm. And most of them thought that it was just an escaped hyena. So that tells me that people, even back then in the 1880s, they knew what a hyena was.
See, that fascinates me because we don't see hyenas in America, so...
Yeah, but I guess...
1886, maybe like a circus?
Circus and zoos and stuff, yeah. So they knew...
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating, too. That's why I put that in there.
Yeah.
That they knew what a hyena was.
Yeah.
You figure, people
Yeah.
wouldn't know, but apparently they did. And that's what they thought it was. It must have just been a hyena that escaped, the circus or the zoo or whatever.
Yeah.
So the creature shot, the Ringdocus, measures 48 inches long, so 4 feet,
Wow.
without the tail. The tail's kind of long and bushy, slightly curled. It's 28 inches tall at the shoulder, so it's much longer than it is tall. It's more of a longer shaped
Yeah.
animal. And the front legs are slightly longer than the back legs, so it does kind of have like a sloping back, kind of like you see on hyenas, but hyenas seem to be more pronounced.
Yeah.
When you see a hyena, you can totally tell that their back legs are shorter than their front legs. On the Ringdocus, it's not as obvious, but yes, the front legs do look slightly longer than the back, which very, very fascinating to me. Now that measurement, the 48 inches long and 28 inches at the shoulder, is slightly larger than the average coyote and slightly smaller than the average brown hyena, because that's what most people think this creature might have been, is a brown hyena. We're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
A lot of people argue that it is. As a matter of fact, because you know how I like to go on the chat rooms and look at the arguments and stuff?
Yeah.
They were arguing. They're like, oh, that just looks like a brown hyena to me. Oh, that just looks like a striped hyena to me. But according to the field notes of Alanson B. Skinner, who was, I guess, like an explorer, and he spent a lot of time with the Native American tribes.
Alanson Buck Skinner was primarily an anthologist who wrote several books on Native American tribal culture.
He wrote, his notes were found, and they're dated circa the 1910s or the 1920s. The Iowa hunters, according to this guy's field notes, had killed and skinned an animal with which they weren't familiar with. This story fascinates me. And they named it the Shunka Waraki on the spot. Because they figured, hey, something's been killing our dogs. Look at this thing. This must be it, because we don't know what this is. So that's where the folklore happened. And this guy, this Alanson, which is a pretty crazy name, huh? Alanson, basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's even how it's pronounced, Alanson.
Yeah.
B. Skinner. They named it right there as soon as they killed it. Skinner said that to him, it appeared to what white people keep in their shows today and call a hyena. And I don't say that in a racist or derogative connotation. I'm just repeating what he wrote.
Right.
So I don't know if Skinner was not white. I don't know if he would maybe part.
Who knows?
He might have been part Native American, or I don't know.
Who knows?
With the last name Skinner, I don't know.
Well, with the first name Alanson too, because that could be derived from a surname.
Yeah.
Because some women back in the days would name their sons after their father's surnames.
Yeah, like John. That's where we get the names Johnson and Hanson, because it's their.
Yeah,
They were John's son.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be their first name though.
Right.
Because
So what's fascinating to me about this is because in those same field notes, it further describes what he called a big Iowa war bundle. And this war bundle that he was referring to, it indicated the existence of what was called a painted hyena skin, which was taken from the Shunka Warakin and worn across the shoulder of one of the warriors. So according to this guy, back in the early 1900s, not only did he see these Iowa hunters kill one of these things, but they skinned it and made it like a trophy, and this guy wore it over his shoulders. So
interesting.
yeah, so something was going on, and he thought it looked like a hyena. So who knows? It might have been a escaped hyena or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe.
But I think that pretty much does it for the red flags. And so we're going to move on to the inarguable truths.
Inarguable truth number 1.
Hyenas do not scream.
Inarguable truth number 2.
Brown hyenas are primarily scavengers.
Inarguable truth number 3.
The Ringdocus has faint impressions of dark stripes along its sides.
Inarguable truth number 4.
Whatever the Ringdocus was, it could not carry a dog away in its mouth.
Inarguable truth number 5.
The Ringdocus was reportedly friendly with dogs, unlike the Shunka Waraki.
Inarguable truth number 6.
The Shunka Waraki that the Iowa people killed and skinned cried like a person as it died.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the inarguable truths. And these inarguable truths are kind of different because I couldn't find a lot of skeptics or debunking going on, which is good. I love it when that happens because then we could just talk about it, you know what I mean? But these inarguable truths are more catered toward what
your research was?
Right, depending on what I think the creature was. Okay, now this is primarily focused towards the Ringdocus. Okay?
Okay.
The thing that was killed.
The thing that was killed by
thing
Israel.
That is mounted and stuffed and we can look at. And there's pictures online. In fact, the picture of this show is going to be of the mounted Ringdocus.
The picture doesn't make it seem like it's that big, though.
It's not big. It's only 28 inches tall, baby.
Yeah,
That's
but
only...
you said it was 4 feet
That's the Shunka Warakin.
Oh,
Is supposed to be big
I'm
enough.
getting it mixed up.
Yes, that's what
Okay.
these
So
inarguable
Shunka.
truths.
It's not the ring, it's the Shunka. Okay.
Shunka.
Shunka. It's not. No Shunka. Yes, ring.
See, I was explaining to the audience that there's two separate creatures we're talking about, and I just signified that we're talking about the one that was shot, and you got it all messed up. Perfect. So our listeners are going to be all messed up now.
Don't listen to me, y'all.
So anyway, the first inarguable truth. Hyenas do not scream. I think this is pretty telling because what was shot, the Ringdocus, according to the stories, before Israel shot it and killed it, it would let out these screams, these horrifying, blood-curdling, spine-tingling screams that could be heard for miles and frightened everybody in the area. And it had to be
Like
this
a
thing.
human scream?
Just these awful screams.
Interesting.
Right. And so the inarguable truth number one, that hyenas don't scream. Hyenas don't. They don't make noises like that. They make strange little yips and cries.
Yeah, they yip.
They're-
Yeah, that's what they do.
A Google search of sounds that hyenas make resulted in this. It says they bark, they roar, they cluck, they yell, they groan, they grunt, and they growl. No screaming, even in the Google search. Now, one could argue, well, they yell. That's the same thing. No.
No, scream and a yell is different.
Exactly, because a scream is more associated with like a roar, and a roar is usually associated with animals. Roars are also deep and guttural.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lion or a, something like
Yes,
that, roaring. Scream is usually high-pitched and full of a bunch of really strong emotion like terror or anger or something like that. That's the definition of a
Are
scream.
there any animals that scream?
Mountain lions scream. Oh. Mountain lions can scream. But people back in the 1800s, they would have known what a mountain lion sounded like.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of mountain lions in Montana.
Oh, yeah.
They would have known what they were. Hunters would have known exactly what a mountain lion sounded like. So,
It's interesting.
if one were to make the argument, well, it could have been about... And they shot and killed this thing. It was not a mountain lion. You know what I mean? You could look at it and go, oh,
Yeah,
look at
it's
that.
not a mountain
It's not a mountain lion. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a zoologist to look at that thing that's mounted and say, okay, no, that's not a mountain lion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something that I could see that could be attributed to this thing. But again, people back then would have known what a mountain lion sounds like. They would have heard mountain lions snarling or screaming, and they would have known. These, it's the 1800s. These people were living
Yeah.
off the land. So anyway,
I just don't see scream coming as an animal. You know what I mean? When I think of the word scream.
that's what they said it did. That
Oh,
it
I
let
know,
out these
I'm
horrifying
just saying,
screams.
I don't think of an animal.
And you got to figure, for them to describe it as a scream, that is something that's not usually associated with animals, like you just said. So that's why it was so alien. Now, just to play devil's advocate, I looked up the difference between a scream and a yell. A yell is usually just a call, and it's usually intended to just attract attention, like you're just trying to get somebody's attention. Hey, something
Yeah.
like that. You're just
Yeah.
yelling to them. That's not what a scream is. So hyenas yell. They'll do like a little yip or a yap or whatever, trying to get attention of their their
Right.
little pack or whatever, their herd or whatever you call it.
Right.
I guess it'd be a pack, huh?
Yeah.
But no screams. So that, to me, tells you right away that whatever was shot and mounted, the Ringdocus, was not a hyena.
Scream is an emotional.
Right. Usually associated with some kind of strong emotion like terror or anger or something like that.
Or fear.
Or fear. Right. Well, that's terror.
Oh, my bad.
So I think we covered that one.
Yeah.
So that's the Ringdocus being a hyena. Zip. So far we're no, it's not a hyena. In the no, it's not a hyena column. Inarguable truth number 2 is the same kind of thing. Brown hyenas are primarily scavengers. Okay? Now they will, and they do, brown hyenas, because this is what most people think it is. They are poor hunters with their live prey only making up 4% of their diet. Now, granted, this is in Africa where they're found. They're found in like southern Africa. And when they do hunt animals, It's usually very small prey like rodents, rabbits, and ground birds, small ground birds. But even in Africa where they're wild, these brown hyenas, only 4% of their diet is live prey. That means 96% of what they eat is scavenged. Now, if you remember the original description, this thing was chasing geese. I think that could arguably be qualified as a small ground bird, a goose.
Yeah.
So that's indicative of a brown hyena. It chasing the geese. You see what I'm saying? Brown hyenas are what are called kleptoparasites. They're very good at this. And what a kleptoparasite is it's an animal that steals kills from other animals. In fact, brown hyena are large enough and aggressive enough. They've been seen driving leopards away from their kills.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah. By itself or
By
in
itself.
the pack?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
by itself. In fact, they've been observed by, biologists and scientists actually going towards and driving away leopards when there's no kill involved. So they just don't like leopards, apparently, and they'll go over there with their mouths open and drive the leopards up a tree, which is pretty fascinating because brown hyena aren't that much bigger than the Ringdocus. So that, to me, the original inarguable truth was supposed to prove, because this Ringdocus, they said, was killing livestock. So my argument was going to be, when I made this inarguable truth, is this thing was a hunter, a voracious hunter.
Yeah, not a kleptoparasite.
Parasite.
Parasite.
Why do you always not be able to speak the English language when we're doing the podcast?
Because I'm trying to read your screen and I am blind, so I see city, but it says site.
Kleptoparasity. Anyway, the argument was going to be that they're primary scavengers. But the thing is they're poor hunters, but they could eat small livestock like chickens. If they're slaughtering people's livestock, they could have been killing the chickens, the ducks, the geese.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The smaller stuff.
Smaller stuff.
I didn't see anything where this thing was going after sheep or goats or cows. The only cow that I read that was killed was by Israel when he was trying to shoot this thing. He accidentally shot one of his cows.
Correct.
Which may mean that it was out by the cows. Maybe it was trying to get the cows. I don't know.
Yeah, or a calf.
Oh, a calf, yeah. Yeah, could have been going after the calves.
Yeah.
But see, that would mean it's a hunter, maybe, because a calf is bigger than this thing. Calves are bigger than 28 inches
Yes.
at the shoulder. That's pretty
Yes.
small. And 4 feet long is a very long animal. But the other thing characteristic of this thing is its snout was very long and narrow,
Right.
which is not indicative of your average hyena. Hyenas have the wider, shorter snouts, which is associated with very powerful bite
Jaws.
strength. In fact, the spotted hyena, I believe the spotted hyena is the largest species of hyena. They have one of the strongest bites of any animal, any other land animal.
Interesting.
That's always fascinating me. Apparently they could snap a baseball bat with their jaws, which is insane when you think about it.
Wow.
Something like this Ringdocus with the narrow snout wouldn't have that biting power. And it's really obvious to me that the people that are saying it might have been a brown hyena aren't looking at pictures of brown hyenas, or at least any pictures of brown hyenas that I've seen, because the brown hyenas' heads are completely shaped differently.
Yeah.
And, again, it has a narrow snout and hyenas don't. They have a shorter, wider, more powerful looking jaw than this thing. It had a very narrow snout, which to me would lend credence to the idea that it probably preyed on smaller prey like a hyena. So on inarguable truth number 2, that brown hyenas are primarily scavengers, I don't know. Maybe this thing was too. I don't know. So to me, it's kind of like up in the air on which way we want to go with it. Whether this Ringdocus was an escaped hyena, because it could be either way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It kind of the lines are blurred there.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so let's move on to inarguable truth number 3. The Ringdocus has faint impressions of dark stripes along its sides. Now, this is in the camp of it's not a hyena, because the only stripes on a brown hyena are on its legs, and they're horizontal lines on its legs. The stripes are horizontal along its forelegs and its back legs. The stripes on the Ringdocus, they're very faint, but you can see them along the flanks, and they're vertical like a tiger's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that to me goes in favor of it not being a hyena. It's weird because when you look at it head on, like there's pictures of it looking directly at its face, it looks like a wolf.
Yeah, it does.
It looks like a large wolf, but when you look from the sides, it doesn't look anything like a wolf. The head it's much too narrow and the snout's too narrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you look at a brown hyena, different pictures of brown hyenas, where you would call its brow, you know where the eyes are?
Yeah.
Much more pronounced, much more rounded, whereas the Ringdocus' head's flatter there. And then again, that short, powerful jaw, the snout is much shorter.
Could that be because of the way that the taxidermist did it?
See, I was thinking that too. If he shot it in the head, maybe he did damage to the skull.
Yeah.
That's possible, but how would that change the shape of the snout? How would that make the snout more narrow?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like if he shot it in the head near the brow and damaged it so that the brow is not as pronounced as a brown hyena is what you're saying, right?
Right,
Because that's
yeah.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But then how would that change the shape of the snout?
Yeah, it wouldn't.
Also, another thing we noticed when we were looking at the photos together, there was two things, the ears and the coloration.
Yeah, the ears look like a dog's ears.
Yeah, the ears on the brown hyena were much larger.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Ringdocus,
Well, and the shape, it's weird. It's an odd shape. It's like a...
more of like a leaf shape
Yeah,
and not
yeah,
the triangle.
Yeah.
The other, and they're larger. The hyena's ears are, to me, look a lot larger on average on the different pictures we were looking at. And also on the Ringdocus was the second thing was the coloration of the fur. It seems more like a black fur with undertones of like a light tan underneath.
Yeah.
And that's how you can see the stripes along that lighter tan.
And the stripes are like a black gray.
Yeah, but it's more of the fur is more black, whereas the
than
brown hyena looks more brown, like a earthy brown.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was other things, and I think goes into the camp and into the. Actually, that should be 2 points because we're talking about the stripes and the snout, and that's like what 3 in the column of it not being a hyena, or not being a brown hyena, or any other hyena for that matter. So we're gonna move on to inarguable truth number 4, which is whatever the Ringdocus was, there's no way it could carry a dog away in its jaws. So this goes into this is leading towards the argument of whether it is an example of the Shunka Warakin or Waraki or not. Because remember, the Native Americans painted this thing in the cave.
Yeah.
Holding a young deer in its mouth, carrying a young deer in its mouth. There's no way something not even
the one that not the one that we looked at. I don't think that could. I mean, I could see
So you're messing up what I'm talking about again.
Yeah, the Ringdocus. The Ringdocus
It could not carry a dog away in its mouth. Right, that's an inarguable truth. You can look right at it. I mean, unless we're talking about a puppy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I was going to say that. Just a puppy, but no.
I even looked it up. The breeds of dogs kept by Native American tribes back then were large breeds because they were either hunting hounds, or they were dogs large enough to pull like sleds. They would use them to like help them move some of their equipment and stuff, and they would pull this,
Yeah, they wouldn't be like little dogs, like toy dogs. And
there's a name for the type of sled. It's when you take 2 poles and cross them and tie them. I can't remember what they're called, but it was that type of small sled, and they would put these little sleds on the back of the dog and harness the dog to it, and the dogs would pull them for the Native Americans. I didn't know that.
An A-frame structure used to haul loads overland by the Plains Indians of North America was called the traveler.
Oh, yeah. That
Pretty
makes
fascinating.
sense, yeah.
But that would take a pretty,
Husky dog.
at least a medium-sized dog.
Yeah.
To large, right?
Yeah.
Medium to large.
Yeah, it's not going to be you're
Not a
gonna-
Chihuahua.
No, you're not going to put a sled on a Chihuahua.
Because I think that thing could probably carry a Chihuahua, but the Native Americans had no reason to have Chihuahua out there.
No.
Or Chihuahua probably didn't even exist back then.
Quiero Taco
So
Bell.
the point is medium-sized to large dogs that would have been kept by the Native Americans back there.
Right.
Or back then.
Yeah.
This thing could not have carried them off.
No.
Unless, again, we're talking about the puppies. But then they would have said something that carries away puppies, not dogs.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So to me, inarguable truth number 4, whether this thing could carry dogs away in its mouth, just by sight, you can tell that the Ringdocus isn't big enough to do that. Nor is it large enough to carry away a young deer.
Right.
Even a fawn. Fawns are, pretty big and they have long legs. It couldn't carry, and it says carries it in its mouth. That means off the ground carrying it,
Yeah.
It could probably drag a fawn away,
Right.
but not carry it. No way. The fawn would have to curl its legs all up, like a little package, and it's not going to do that. It's going to be kicking and fighting,
Yeah, it's going to fight.
So there's no way it could pick it up off the ground to where its feet were off, and it's carrying it.
Right.
Is the point. So this is in the camp that what they shot the Ringdocus, I don't think, had anything to do with the lore of the Shunka Waraki.
Yeah, I don't
To
think
me.
so. Yeah, I think you're
And-
talking about two different creatures.
Right, and whatever it was that the Iowa people shot or killed, I don't know if they shot it. They probably used it. Well, no, they probably would have had rifles by then, the 1800s or 1900s. Oh, yeah. Probably had
might have.
rifles that they
Yeah, might
shot.
have.
Remember, because they shot and killed one and skinned it, according
Right.
to that
According
Allenson.
according to Allenson.
Yeah, the Allenson Skinner. His field notes said that they killed and shot something that they couldn't identify. But
Correct.
Unfortunately, there's no description except that it might have been a hyena. Now, if it was a spotted hyena, that would have been large enough to perhaps carry away a medium-sized dog. Because spotted hyenas are much larger than 28 inches at the shoulder, I believe. So I don't
Maybe.
know.
I don't know.
But anyway, they skinned it and killed it. I don't think they're talking about the same creature.
No,
Because
I
there's
think it's
no
two
way.
different creatures.
Yes, there's no way it could carry away dogs in its mouth. So that's what Inarguable Truth number 4 is all about.
Okay.
Moving on to Inarguable Truth number 5. The Ringdocus was reportedly friendly with dogs, unlike the Shunka Waraki. So you have something that preys on dogs, something that they actually named carries dogs away in its mouth.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So it looks at dogs as prey. This Ringdocus, apparently was friendly with dogs. It didn't bother dogs. Or the dogs just barked at it or whatever and just kind of sniffed it. And, because
Yeah.
people were seeing this thing all over town.
Right.
And they saw it like in the intro, they saw it 15 miles down the valley.
Yeah.
So this thing traveled long distances. So people were seeing it, and apparently the gist, the description of this thing was it wasn't dangerous to dogs. You know what I mean? They were kind
Yeah.
of playing with, maybe the dogs chased it or whatever, or they were playing together. I don't know. But the overall description of the Ringdocus is it wasn't dangerous to dogs. It wasn't preying on dogs.
So, and it wasn't dangerous to the cows either.
I don't know.
It was probably just messing with the cows, like
Maybe.
dogs do. You know
Yeah.
how like dogs do?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But the point is this is
The difference between the two.
right. This is in the camp that again it wasn't
Yeah.
the Shunka Waraki
No.
because it couldn't have been.
Right.
If you have this thing that's named for killing dogs, carrying dogs off and eating them,
Right.
and here you have this thing that they shot later in the 1800s,
Right.
playing with dogs. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's the same creature.
Yeah, I don't either.
So that's what Inarguable Truth number 5 was. Now,
Okay.
moving on to Inarguable Truth number 6. And we're flying through this, aren't we?
We are. We are.
Inarguable Truth number 6. The Shunka Waraki that the Iowa people killed and skinned cried like a person as it died. That's another thing. I didn't hear I couldn't find any descriptions of the Ringdocus where people described it sounding anything like a person. Because remember, hyena, they can make noises similar to people noises. They can make little yips and little calls. When they do that weird laughing thing, it sounds like a person laughing, So maybe it was making something like that so that the description by the Iowa hunters was that it was crying like a person as they killed it. To me, Inarguable Truth number 6 is it's in the column of it might have been a hyena that they killed. It might have been a hyena that the Shunka Waraki was named after. An escaped hyena or maybe a extinct hyena or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was an endangered species.
Yeah.
the Iowa killed it off. I don't know.
Who knows?
But the Ringdocus didn't sound like a person.
Yeah, we're talking like 100 years ago, so who
Yeah.
knows? I mean,
Well over 100
there
years
could be
ago.
creatures that we don't know that
Yeah.
existed.
And it wasn't as well known. You didn't have the internet where you could just look on your phone and go, oh yeah, that's what I saw. You know, you didn't have that back then.
Or in the Native American folklore, it could have been a shapeshifter. But that's going down a whole different ballgame.
You know, I never considered that.
Because now you're saying that it cried like a person, and
wow, you just took this into left field, baby.
I'm sorry.
That's my job.
I'm sorry.
I'm supposed to take it into left field. No, let's think about this. Let's go over the... That's a fascinating... That never entered my mind, that it might have been one of these shapeshifters, these werewolves or dogmen or skinwalkers of the Navajo belief, you know?
Yeah.
It would scream.
Yes, it would.
They're associated with screaming, and which is number one, hyenas don't scream. Well, this thing would let out these horrible blood-curdling screams.
Yes.
Those have been associated with dogman
Yes.
/ we'll call them shapeshifters.
Just shapeshifters.
To cover the whole
easier.
bunch.
Yeah, just
because we can do shows on each individual creature. The skinwalker, werewolves, dogman, the whole 9 yards. So we'll just call it a possible shapeshifter. They are associated with screams. Man, that's really good that you brought that up, baby.
Sorry.
That fascinates me. Anyway, they're not scavengers either.
They're not.
The dogman, but they would be perfect kleptoparasites. They could steal kills away from other animals.
Yes, they could.
So, man, that is crazy.
That just blew your mind, huh?
Yeah. Well, let's go down the list. I mean, they scream.
Yeah, they scream.
They're not primarily scavengers.
No.
I don't know about the dark stripes.
Well, I mean, you could have any. I mean, if you're a shapeshifter, you can.
Yeah, your fur could be, but they have been associated with darker fur.
Yes, they have.
You know, it could have faint stripes. Most of them are seen at night, from what I understand. But they're usually associated with like jet black.
But what if you're a shapeshifter and you're doing stripes on your? You know how like the Native American would paint their bodies? The stripes are painted.
Something like that, yeah. So they could have stripes.
Yes.
So again, that doesn't negate them.
No, it doesn't.
So moving on to number 4, whatever it was, it couldn't carry a dog away in its mouth. I think a shapeshifter could carry a dog away in its mouth.
Yes.
Pretty easily.
Yes.
So that's what, 3 yes, 3 yays, and 1 nay.
Yeah.
So far. Number 5, friendly with dogs, no. No, that's a nay. They are not. Dogmen or shapeshifters are not all the way down the list. They're not supposedly friendly. Although...
They're not friendly to animals? Shapeshifters are not friendly to...
Although, now that I'm thinking about it, the, what's that farm called? The Skinwalker Ranch. The story was that this massive wolf that was like the size of like a calf or a young cow was messing with the... No, it was playing with the cows. But it was friendly to the humans. He went and grabbed his rifle because it was so large.
Yeah.
And it was hanging around, his children, his young kids. But it was just kind of letting them pet it, and it wasn't scaring
it wasn't
them.
aggressive.
But it was massive.
Yeah.
So he still had his firearm there.
Right.
And they actually did wind up shooting it because it grabbed one of the calves through the fence and started trying to yank it out of the fence. And he was shooting it point blank, and he couldn't kill it. That's Skinwalker. That's a totally different story. But the point is I was trying to think of whether it was friendly towards dogs, and I don't think so. That story is toward people. It wasn't aggressive, and it was aggressive toward the cows. So,
Okay.
So that's an A.
Okay.
They're not friendly to dogs. The shapeshifters. Number 6. They killed it and skinned it, and it cried like a person when it died. That could be associated with shapeshifters. So that's 4 yays and 2 nays.
Right.
Wow, that's really crazy, baby. That's interesting. I wanted to keep it more like you had a folkloric animal. Well, this is going to get into the conclusions. So we'll do you want to go ahead and move into the...
Yeah, let's move into the conclusion.
In conclusion, baby, what do you think the Ringdocus was?
I think it was a hybrid. I think it was a hybrid of a wolf and a dog, or I think it was a hybrid,
You didn't
or it was an animal that we've never seen. I don't think it was a hyena. I think it was an animal that we never saw, because there's stuff, even in the Americans, there's creatures we have not seen.
We haven't
There's
discovered yet, yes.
birds we haven't seen, fish we haven't seen. There's all kinds of creatures we have not seen. So I believe it was a creature that we did not know of.
And to make you feel better, the cryptozoological community has dubbed this thing the American hyena. That perhaps it was either a prehistoric surviving animal,
Okay.
and we were talking about this before.
Yeah.
It could have been an extinct creature or an endangered creature, and the Iowa just killed it off.
Yeah.
So you're not the only one that thinks that it might have been a creature separate from
Yeah.
any known hyena that we know, but that still would make it a hyena, because remember, hyenas aren't canines.
Right.
I believe they're a different.
Right.
I think they're more associated with bear.
Hyenas are feliformids, which are cat-like carnivores.
So I think it's either a canine hybrid, or it's a creature that we've never seen before.
And you're getting much better on your conclusions, baby, because normally when I ask you what you think, you give me this deer in the headlights.
And the Shunka, I think that's a shapeshifter.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's a shapeshifter. And I came to all these conclusions while we were doing this show because, once again, Victor doesn't share his notes. So as I'm reading notes and listening to him, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I think.
But this is why it's better that you don't see my notes, because then you just come out of... I'm dead serious, baby. I'm not joking. I did not even think shapeshifter. That never entered my mind.
Yeah, it's definitely two different creatures.
Yes.
But the Shunka Warakin or Keen or whatever you say it is, that's a shapeshifter. That's a shapeshifter.
That is fascinating.
And that's why that has everything to do with the Native American folklore. That's all about the Native Americans. But the Ringdocus, that's a creature we've never seen before. Or something gone.
My only concern with the Shunka Waraki being a shapeshifter or a dog man is that I believe, again, because I didn't think that had anything to do with the association of what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. I believe they have their own folklore separate with shapeshifters, like the Wendigo and the Skinwalker and all that kind of stuff.
How about the hunter that killed the Shunka? It could have been somebody that he didn't like, and then he decided to wear the skin. You know what I mean? You could go into all kinds of stories.
Yeah.
Like, it could be from a different tribe.
Well, what I'm saying is that if it was a shapeshifter, they would have said it was a shapeshifter.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they would have had their own stories.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have said it's the Shunka Waraki, which is a separate...
Well, that's fine. But you're asking for my conclusions, and I think it's a shapeshifter.
Yeah. Well, I'm just playing devil's advocate. You know what I mean? I'm telling you
Yeah.
that... Because well, in my opinion, well, you just blew me out of the water. My conclusion's all blown out of the water now. My conclusion was that the Ringdocus, the thing that was shot and killed, was definitely it was definitely not a Shunka Waraki. So we're in agreement there.
Yeah, it's not.
B, it was not a brown hyena.
No,
I
it's
will
not.
argue blue in the face to anybody that says, and to me, whoever is going to argue that it's a brown hyena, you give me what you're smoking. Because the pictures you're looking at, or the video you're watching, you got some good drugs going on, some good hallucinogens. Please give me some, because they're good. That's good
Yeah,
stuff. Because
yeah.
this thing looks nothing to me.
No.
The only thing that's even vaguely familiar is the length of the fur and the tail.
Yeah.
That's it. The stripes on the legs, the shape of the head, the shape of the ears, the size of the head,
Yeah.
the length of the snout. It looks nothing like a brown hyena. I'm sorry. Nothing. So, now, as far as the shapeshifter goes, I guess the Shunka Waraki could be some type of shapeshifter, because they just say it's a wolf-like creature. And they did say, remember at the beginning, we did say that it's associated with dark magic or spirits.
Yes.
So it's a sinister,
Yes.
something to be feared. So
Yes.
that could go along the lines of a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know a lot about the Iowa. And there was other Native American tribes that were in that area at the time. And they had different names. The name was real similar,
Yeah.
amongst the different languages and stuff. But I believe it was something that they feared and it was something that they avoided.
Yeah.
So the fact that they killed one and skinned it like a normal creature, I don't know, man. That's fascinating, though. You blew my mind away, baby. That's really good. That's really good that you did that. It made me think. I'm going to have to think more outside the box next time. Well, because I wanted to cater the show towards
I'm sorry.
what was killed and mounted.
Yeah.
Because obviously what was shot and mounted, the Ringdocus, is not a shapeshifter.
No, it's a creature that we've never seen before. It's
Yeah.
a creature. It's a creature that might still be around, but might be instinct. Is that how you say instinct? Distinct? How do you say it?
Extinct?
Yeah, extinct.
Yeah, extinct.
Yeah.
Why can't you speak
I don't
English
know.
when we're doing the
It's getting
podcast?
late. I don't know.
Well, anyway, as far as the Ringdocus goes, what I think that is, I'm in agreement with you. I think it's either some type of weird hybrid that was a one-off,
Yeah.
or, again, it was some type of endangered species, or perhaps even something prehistoric
Yeah.
that was still in existence and they
Yeah, because we're
managed to
talking,
kill it.
this is 1800s. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It still could be around.
And the only fuel I could give to somebody that's going to just completely pour water on all of this
Yeah.
is it's never been formally looked at. It's never been formally studied.
Oh, yeah, I remember you.
The
just-
Ringdocus,
yeah.
because there's a question of jurisdiction between the two, because remember it's on two different states.
Yeah.
It partially belongs to Idaho and it's on loan to Montana. But remember, it was killed in Montana. And donated to Idaho.
Yeah.
And they don't even know how it was donated to Idaho because it just vanished
Yeah.
from Montana. So for over 100 years. So the lines of who owns it and who has the rights to it are very blurred. But you got to remember, and Jack Kirby passed away. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah,
he
he
passed
did.
away just like 2015, right?
No, he passed away in 2023.
So he recently died.
Yeah, just recently.
So his family could possibly have claim to
On the
Ringdocus.
yes.
And well, I saw in 2007 when he first rediscovered this thing after over 120 years. I saw there were different like stories being written about it, and I saw in one of the stories he was asked, was he going to do a DNA test on it, once and for all?
Yeah.
And he declined. He said no. And his answer was, do we really want to know?
Interesting.
Because I guess he wanted to keep the mystery going.
Yeah.
So I think if we leave it down to him or his family, since he's passed away now,
Right.
they might not want to get it tested.
Yeah.
So we might ever not know what it
Yeah.
is.
It might always be a mystery.
Yeah. Which is,
Okay.
yeah. No, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything wrong with that.
Nope.
Because we know it's not a shapeshifter. We know it's not
Right.
anything supernatural. We know it's not anything paranormal.
Right.
It's just
It's just a creature we haven't seen.
something. Yeah. But what I do know is it's not a hyena.
Yeah.
I'm firm in that.
Yeah. And
And-
you know what else? I wish people would stop saying, well, it's probably just something that escaped from the circus.
Well, because that's the usual
Okay,
explanation.
but that's dumb. That's just dumb.
Why?
Everything's escaping. like when we did the owls or whatever, they thought it was monkeys and escaped from the circus. Stop with the circus
You're
already.
talking about the, yeah.
Stop with the circus,
Well,
please.
that's just the easiest explanation. But,
I guess.
But you have to remember, baby, in that case, it was debunking. Never mind that there might not have been a circus in that area for years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we blew that one out of the water. Because
Yeah.
remember they were trying to say it was owls,
I
and
know, but
owls
I'm
don't
just
even
saying
nest.
the circus for this one too, though. A
Yeah.
hyena from the circus. No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, or a zoo. I mean, I don't know.
No.
I don't know how many zoos are in Montana or were in Montana back there in the late 1800s, but right. I think that about does it.
That about does
I
it.
think we did a good job. Well, you did a good job discovering the whole shapeshifter thing because you added a whole
Different dynamic.
a whole nother direction of discussion there with that because
I was trying to wait for the conclusion, but then I was like, I'm just gonna.
I'm kind of glad you didn't because that allowed us to go down the list of inarguable truths,
yeah,
and
yeah, it
compare.
did, yeah.
And again, 4 in the column of it could have been, and only 2 in the column of no,
Yeah.
it couldn't have been. So
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what
Who
it was?
knows?
But that's in reference to the Shunka Warakin,
Right.
not the Ringdocus. The
Yes.
Ringdocus, I just think it was just the, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, that about does it. Thank you for your continued support. Again, send us emails. If you like us, If you can give us a positive review, give us a positive review. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Good night.